Today we're going to talk about how Urban Meyer's retirement as the head coach at the Ohio State University affects Oklahoma and the 2019 recruiting cycle, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we're going to talk about how Urban Meyer stepping down from head coaching altogether, really, but at Ohio State University affects the 2019 recruiting cycle at Oklahoma in particular. So backstory for those of you that just haven't kept up with the news, and I know that this is the time of season where a lot of coaches are getting fired, a lot of coaches are getting hired, as well as the bowl selections and the college football playoff and in-home recruiting visits. And that's really the foundation of what we're going to talk about and how we're going to go through it. So on Tuesday morning, Ohio State University announced that Urban Meyer would no longer be the head coach at Ohio State after the Rose Bowl. And they immediately followed that by saying that offensive coordinator Ryan Day will take over as the head coach for the Buckeyes, which is a really great move on their part. Ryan Day was a rising star. I was expecting him to leave that job if he didn't this season, next season, to take a head coaching gig because he's proven that he can do it and do it well. He was the guy that was running the day-to-day and running the team and got 3 wins while Urban Meyer was suspended. And that has a lot to do with this as well. You'll remember that Ohio State has had a tumultuous year starting in the summer when Urban Meyer was asked about Zach Smith, lied about it, and then Zach Smith was basically put on Front Street by Brett McMurphy. And in putting Zach Smith on Front Street, you also put Urban Meyer on Front Street. And there was a lot that Urban Meyer had to talk about and answer for. And I was one of the folks saying, yeah, the guy doesn't need to be coaching anymore because your coach, the guy that you're responsible for, was basically a terrible person. But it was clear that Urban Meyer had not broken any laws. He more or less had only committed the sin of lying to all of us and maybe even the university, but that wasn't so much going to get him to lose his job. As Urban Meyer has proven, he's one of the best head coaches of this generation, whether we like it or not. And that's also getting into the crux of what the sport is about and what we want the sport to be about in the future. But you cannot argue with Urban Meyer's resume from the national championships to ushering in the spread offense with Utah in 2004. That guy coached Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, JT Barrett, and here lately, Dwayne Haskins. But I think moving toward Ryan Day is not only the right decision for Ohio State altogether, but also it's kind of a wink at how college football head coaching hires should probably be done for the foreseeable future, because this used to be what was called the head coach in waiting. You'll remember that Will Muschamp was that guy from Mac Brown. That didn't work out so well. You'll also remember that Jimbo Fisher was that guy for Bobby Bowden at Florida State. Didn't work out so well. But at Oklahoma, where Bob Stoops just said, I'm leaving if you give this guy the job, that turned out to be perhaps the best possible decision anybody at Oklahoma has made since hiring Bob Stoops in the first place. And you saw Ohio State has already laid out a seamless transition and framework for Ryan Day to take over as the guy running the day-to-day. He's also going to keep intact the bulk of that staff that got them into the Rose Bowl. But also the timing. Why is the timing so important? Because this is the time of year for which coaches are hitting the road for in-home visits. You'll notice that Lincoln Riley got into the college football playoff, but was already on a plane and couldn't watch it from the comfort of his home because he was already going to Texas to try to make sure they have sewn up the 2019 class commits that they know about and perhaps go swing some that they still want to get. You saw the pictures rolling out on social media from various recruits that got to meet with Cale Gundy, Lincoln Riley, Calvin Thibodeau. And that has been what Urban Meyer and Ryan Day and Greg Schiano have wanted to do with the rest of this 2019 cycle, because December 19th is the early signing day period. So you're going into these parents and these kids' houses and telling them, yes, I'm no longer going to be the guy at Ohio State, but this is the guy, Ryan Day. You know Ryan Day. You trust Ryan Day. I trust Ryan Day. That's the pitch that is going on right now inside and outside of these potential commits, homes and high schools, as they really do have to nail down where they decide to play college football next year. Many of them in the next 2 weeks. So for Ohio State, this is also the best thing that they could do because their 2019 class has been pretty static since folks found out about what happened with Zach Smith and then Urban Meyer's health issues. Now, no matter how you feel about what Urban Meyer's health issues are or could be, I tend to go along with believing him because I've had migraines and it's just not okay. It's not okay. And we got this really iconic photo of him going down to one knee. We also know that this job is tremendously stressful. All you got to do is look at Bob Stoops to know that. But it's not the kind of job that most folks can do forever. And Bill Snyder basically proved that yesterday when it became official that he's no longer going to be the head coach at Kansas State. And Merlin had been around forever. But when you take into account the stress that Urban Meyer was under from what he said or did not say, what he denied and later did not deny, along with the stress of winning games, the loss to Purdue, the sitting on pins and needles to find out whether or not you're going to make it in the college football playoff, and now the preparation for Washington in the Rose Bowl, which is a bowl he's never coached in before, you can come around to thinking, yeah, perhaps that guy needs to take a break and sit down, which is also getting back to the idea of Urban Meyer. This is a guy who was put on a very strict regimen by his family about what his hours were going to be and how he was going to do this job and be around his family. He's got a grandchild now that he needs to spend time with, that he wants to spend time with. Time management issues are always going to be a problem for coaches at this level, whether they be position coaches, head coaches, or even strength coaches. It's just not the kind of gig that is conducive to a happy and healthy family environment unless your wife and your children are all in, which means they spend a lot of time around the program and they love the program, and that's just not true for everybody involved in college football. Now, there are 2 commits that Oklahoma was in on that could be directly affected by Urban Meyer's retirement. One of them is Garrett Wilson, but Garrett Wilson was quick to tweet out he is 1,000% committed to Ohio State University. This is a 5-star recruit who was high on Texas and Oklahoma before narrowing it down to Texas and Ohio State. Ended up choosing Ohio State in a bit of an upset as he's basically from Austin and decided to go to Ohio State famously because he knows that they develop guys into NFL-ready wide receivers up there. The other guy that Oklahoma's in on is safety Jordan Battle. Battle is committed to Ohio State, and he said so many times before, but he's also a teammate of Oklahoma commit Jaden Davis, and there's been lots of chatter about whether or not he could flip commitments. Now, depending on what his in-home visits were like, and depending on how much of what he believes out of Ohio State is true versus what he believes Oklahoma is going to do is true, you could see that guy going toward Oklahoma, especially knowing that he get to play with his teammate in Jaden Davis. You also know that a safety, and perhaps a corner, but a safety is a top priority get for this 2019 class, and you got Dre Criddle, and who decommitted from Oregon, also in the mix. So this is good news if you're looking at the defensive backs for 2019 that Oklahoma was in on, because now you have real opportunities to get Jay Criddle and Jordan Battle, or at least one or the other. Another guy to keep in the back of your mind is former Owasso standout Josh Proctor. This is a guy Oklahoma missed out on in the 2018 class who committed to Ohio State. He might want to come home now. We'll see. He doesn't necessarily do a lot of work with Urban Meyer. He works a lot with the secondary coach, who's Alex Grinch, by the way, in the running for the defensive coordinator job at Oklahoma, and Greg Schiano. So that's also a name to keep your eyes on, as there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking. I could easily see Josh Proctor deciding to come to Oklahoma if Alex Grinch were the defensive coordinator in 2019, but all signs seem to be trending toward Pete Golding on that front. But again, that's complicated because Oklahoma plays Alabama in the Orange Bowl on December 29th, and it's not as if that's a hang-up for Lincoln Riley. He hired away an assistant from the last playoff team that he coached against in Shane Beamer. So if he wants Pete Golding, probably can get Pete Golding. But if he wants Alex Grinch, perhaps there's a Josh Proctor that would go along with him. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.